听专家解读美国升学方案，看美国学习生活点滴，圆美国名校梦想。本节目由美国文美教育集团冠名播出。
大家好，欢迎收看文美集团美国升学直通车。文美集团美国升学直通车是华人网和文美教育集团联合制作播出的北美首档大型的网络直播教育节目。在我们的节目当中，你将会了解到最新最权威的教育资讯，还有升学的建议。无论您是学生还是家长，有任何的美国升学教育问题，都可以给我们留言。首先还是来给大家介绍一下文美集团。美国文美集团，美国大学申请规划服务第一品牌，20年经验，万博士领衔常春藤顾问团队，中美双顾问模式服务一个学生，按照大学录取学校排名收费，与孩子形成利益共同体。华人老品牌，值得您的信赖。文美集团隆重推出 ACAP 大学专业及职业测评规划管理系统，华人升学机构首创，完美解决华人学生最大升学痛点。人工智能提前锁定大学专业方向，提前2到5年布局申请。有了专业测评系统，孩子的课程规划更清晰，活动更聚焦，文书更有故事感，大学申请更有竞争力。5到11年级学生都可以报名参加测评。文美集团1对1非营利组织成立运营领导力项目，让孩子从参与者变为领导者，真正成长、成人、成才进名校。5到11年级学生均可报名参加。文美集团社会影响力联合国网络义工课程，节省孩子时间，做名校认可的社会影响力，高大上义工。5到11年级学生均可报名参加。今天我们继续邀请到前宾大的招生官，同时也是文美集团的规划部的文科项目主管 Miss Mehr 来和我们的华人家长聊一聊从他作为招生官的视角来看，如何来提升孩子的领导力还有社会影响力。有请 Miss Mehr。Hi
everyone, welcome to another session. Today our focus will be on passion project. Let me open up with a very, very important thing that the admissions officers say all the time, which is that they're looking for students who don't just participate in their community, but they identify a specific need, develop a sustainable solution, and measure the outcomes, and then follow through that initiative. So that is rightly the difference between a good applicant and an applicant that stands out. An applicant that stands out is really going to be the one who does not really just passively contribute, is super active, gets involved, looks at what's happening in the community and takes action, because at the end of the day, schools are looking for change makers. As I mentioned earlier, today's session is going to be about passion projects. So let me tell you what a passion project is. A passion project is the centerpiece of your extracurricular profile. It's not a club that you joined. It's not a class that you were assigned to take. A passion project is really something that you build, something that did not really exist earlier before you decided to create it. So that is something that you're super passionate about, and you end up creating it. You end up finding something in your community, for example, and end up doing something about it, and that could be your passion project. At schools like Harvard, Yale, and Princeton, where the acceptance rate sits between 3 and 5%, a passion project may be the most it probably is the single most powerful differentiator in your application. Here's the reality of the landscape you're stepping into. Harvard's acceptance rate for the class of 2028 was around 3.6%, and Yale was about 3.7%. In 2025 and 2026, admission committees are sharper than ever at spotting inflated resumes from authentic passion projects. and the game has really changed. And a passion project is how you play it well. I am now going to talk a little bit about some passion project ideas, some hypothetical students. And let's say, let me give you 4 hypothetical student projects, and that might give you a better idea as to what a passion project entails. So let's start with case study 1. The student is a mental health advocate. So imagine a student named Maya who struggled with anxiety in middle school. By high school, she noticed her peers had nowhere to turn to and they were struggling. So she saw this issue in her community, and that was something she had firsthand experienced herself. So she wanted to do something about it. She wanted to take action. So she founded a student mental health awareness nonprofit. She partnered with schools, counselors to host monthly workshops. She brought in licensed therapists for virtual panels. She built a resource website designed specifically for teenagers. Within a year, she'd expanded to 3 schools in her district. Here's what this project did for her application at the Ivy League level. It showed empathy, leadership, organization skill, a sustained commitment to something real. And in essence, a passion project just has to be a proof of your personal character and values. And that is what it's really doing here. And Maya's project made that proof impossible to ignore. Now let's talk about case study 2, which is for a student who is very, very interested in the STEM side and ends up wanting to develop the STEM Access program. Let's say there's a hypothetical student named Daniel. Daniel grew up in a lower income community and wanted to give kids in his neighborhood access to STEM. So he had this experience himself, like, he had firsthand seen that in underserved communities, we don't have a ton of access to STEM resources. And now he is all up to give something to his community, to do something about this problem that he noticed. And he has a personal connection to it as well. So he founded a free after-school coding and robotics program at his local community center. He recruited classmates to help teach. He applied for a small grant from a local business association, and he got it. He organized an end-of-year showcase for students, parents, and community members. And this could be his passion project. The STEM Access program. I do want to say that, admissions officers, especially if you look at a school like Princeton, they really look for students who make a difference in their schools and communities. And Daniel's project in this case study was exactly that: specific, verifiable, and built to outlast him. Now let's talk about another passion project idea. Case study 3, the climate science publication. Let's say there is a hypothetical student named Priya. Priya is super passionate about climate science, but frustrated that most coverage was either too technical for teenagers or too simplified to be meaningful. She noticed this issue firsthand. She's not getting a lot of climate science information. Like, I have to do something about this issue. I have to take action. She launches a climate science newsletter written specifically for high school students. So now it is digestible for high school students. It makes sense now. And she does one long form explainer every week. She interviews graduate researchers. Within 6 months, she has hundreds of subscribers across 4 countries. And that's her passion project, focused on climate science, and which is her major interest. But at the same time, she loves writing. I do want to say that schools like Stanford and Yale both reward authentic intellectual exploration. And in this case, this hypothetical case of the student Priya's project didn't just enlist interest in climate science on her application. It proved it with a body of work that anybody could read and verify. I hope these case studies are making sense so far. I do want to reiterate that for passion project, you really have to come up with a solid idea which resonates with you, your interests, and also combines with your major interests, because that is going to be that one big project, probably your number one activity on your Common App, that we want to highlight and use that as a way for you to stand out amongst thousands of applicants for the top schools. Okay, moving on. Now let's think about another case. So case study 4. There's a student who is an athlete. Let's say the name for this hypothetical student is Ethan. Ethan is a competitive swimmer and a computer science enthusiast. His team struggled to manage training schedules alongside academic deadlines. Now, this is an issue that is very close to this hypothetical student, Ethan's heart. And he's like, I gotta do something about this. So he builds an app. He publishes it on the Apple Store and has 40 members of his school's athletic program using his app within the first month. It doesn't have to turn out to be the bestseller on the App Store, but it's a real impact that he has been able to create, and it lived at the exact intersection of who he was. A strong spike here becomes impossible to ignore, and that's what this hypothetical student's app did in this case. It made him unforgettable to the admissions officers because they see that he saw a problem within his community, and he noticed that, and he took action, and he made impact. Okay, moving forward. Before we talk more about how to build a passion project, let me flag some mistakes that we consistently see with the passion projects. The first one is students aim too high and they try to do it too fast. And that becomes a problem. You really have to be very strategic as to how you want to lead the project, develop a timeline, and really be sure about the idea before you pursue it, because consistency is really the key. Admissions officers want you to start with something that you're super passionate about and then continue with it, not just stop doing it one day. The second big pitfall that I've seen is no roadmap. A passion project without a plan is just an idea. And it's important that we really have a strong roadmap. And finally, as I mentioned earlier, that the passion project really needs to tie with your personality, your major interests, And if you choose a project that does not really tell your story, that's a problem. And admissions officers can spot an inauthentic application instantly. They've seen the same manufactured stories too many times. Your passion project needs to feel like a natural combination of who you already are, not something engineered the summer before the applications. And parents, I want to address you directly here. It's important that, we have authentic ideas in there. Admissions officers are easily able to spot projects driven by parents and the projects that are not very authentic. So it's important that the project needs to come from the student. Admissions officers are trained to spot the difference. The best thing you can do is ask your child, what problem do you actually care about solving? And then support what they come up with. Okay. Since I gave you quite a few case studies and ideas for the passion project already, I do want to say that there are some highlights within the strong passion projects, which are, of course, those are things that a student really wants to do, deeply connected to who the student already was, shows sustained commitment over time. And it's not about really stacking your resume. It's about contributing to something bigger than yourself. And so those are some things that the admissions officers are looking for. Now, I will be spending some time going over how do I decide what kind of passion project should I lead? Should I do a solo project? Should I do a group project? Should I create an app? Should I write something? What really makes the most sense for me? This question obviously keeps on coming up. And for this one, I do want to say that it's important that you pick on something that, of course, you really care about and you are keenly interested in that. But I will go over some stages as to how one should be leading a passion project. The first one is doing a lot of research and brainstorming. So going over different ideas, seeing what makes the most sense, then doing planning, like, creating an outline, thinking about, okay, what my milestones are going to be, how I'm going to lead the different things, what do I need? So going over that and then moving on to the implementation piece. If you move directly to implementation, that can be a problem and a challenge. And a lot of times leads to a lot of roadblocks. And once you have implemented, then, work on marketing. You could create a marketing strategy early, but after you have implemented or executed in a way, then worry more about marketing and then expansion. Expansion is something that, of course, you'd have to work towards as well, but don't worry too much about it in the initial stages. Now, I will also spend a little bit of time going over, if you were to start a nonprofit, how would you do it? If you were to start a nonprofit, the first step obviously is brainstorming, writing the mission statement, defining your scope, who you're serving, what you're trying to make, research similar organizations in the area and so on, and then doing the planning where you build your organization chart, what role does your organization need, marketing events, etc. And then you move on to implementation where you set a date for your first event and so on. And then you work on the marketing piece, like building a simple website, designing flyers, creating a consistent social media schedule, And the final step is expansion, as I mentioned earlier. Can you bring in other schools? Can you apply for grants, tracking metrics, and getting feedback, etc. Then you would follow a similar roadmap for app development as well, and also for any kind of publication that you might be leading. Finally, I do want to leave you all with like a higher level picture here. That students with straight A's, perfect SAT scores, 15 AP classes are unfortunately getting denied from the elite schools. And that is the reality of this admissions landscape. Because those students normally don't really have a cohesive narrative, they don't really have a differentiator, because academic review is just the first step. After that, you really have to show them that, you know, you're ready for the kind of commitment and rigor that that school offers. So what differentiates you is from other applicants is going to be your story, and only you can tell your story. Selectivity today is driven not only by academic scarcity, but by search for the fit, distinctiveness, contribution, and a passion project is how you demonstrate all three in a way that no grade, no test score, and no list of like, you know, club memberships ever can. Your application is a story arc. The fire that ignited your interest, the obstacle you conquered, and how you evolved is important for the admissions officers to really feel when reviewing your application, because unfortunately they spend under 10 minutes reviewing your application. So it's important that they can really see that story through your application. And in my opinion, your passion project is the most powerful chapter of that story. So to all the students and listening to me today, I do want to say that, you know, if you're thinking about starting a passion project, really think about what problems do you care about solving? What are some of the things in your community that you may have noticed that may need your attention? It could be your immediate community. It could be a broader community. So really start from there and show the admissions officers that you see a problem and you act and you're a change maker. And to parents, all I can say is that, you know, support the process, trust the students, and of course, that's very important. And I guess the work starts now. So I do want to thank you all for listening to me, and hopefully this was a productive session about the passion project, and hopefully this will help, and you all hopefully may have gotten some ideas as well for your passion project. So yeah, good luck. Thank you, and bye for now.
感谢 Miss Mehr 今天跟我们的分享啊，你有任何的问题都可以来直接咨询文美集团。美国文美集团，美国大学申请规划服务第一品牌，20年经验，万博士领衔常春藤顾问团队，中美双顾问模式服务一个学生，按照大学录取学校排名收费，与孩子形成利益共同体。华人老品牌，值得您的信赖。文美集团隆重推出 ACAP 大学专业及职业测评规划管理系统，华人升学机构首创，完美解决华人学生最大升学痛点。人工智能提前锁定大学专业方向，提前2到5年布局申请， 有了专业测评系统，孩子的课程规划更清晰，活动更聚焦，文书更有故事感，大学申请更有竞争力。5到11年级学生都可以报名参加测评。文美集团1对1非营利组织成立运营领导力项目，让孩子从参与者变为领导者，真正成长、成人、成才进名校。5到11年级学生均可报名参加。文美集团社会影响力联合国网络义工课程，节省孩子时间，做名校认可的社会影响力，高大上义工。5到11年级学生均可报名参加。感谢大家收看我们今天的节目，我们下次再见。